The Eternal Council had convened for the first time in 3 millennia, their crystalline forms resonating with frequencies that would have shattered lesser minds. Across the vast chamber of living starlight, beings who had transcended mortality eons ago gathered to discuss an impossibility. "The humans have breached the 9th barrier," announced Zephyros, his voice carrying the weight of collapsed stars. "They stand at the threshold of the 10th realm." A ripple of disbelief passed through the assembly. The Kethmori, ancient beyond measure, shifted their geometric bodies in what might have been nervousness. The Velthari, who had once devoured galaxies for sustenance, flickered with uncertainty. "Impossible," declared Omnarch Valdris, her form blazing with the fury of 1,000 suns. "We sealed those barriers with the fundamental forces of reality itself. No mortal species has ever—" "Yet here we are," interrupted Elder Nyx, his presence a void that seemed to consume light itself. "Discussing mortals who should have been dust for 10,000 years. The first reports had seemed like cosmic jokes. A species that had barely learned to harness fire were somehow surviving the heat death of their star. Primitives who worshipped invisible deities were manipulating quantum fields. Creatures who killed each other over resources were working together to punch holes in space-time. Perhaps we should observe them more closely," suggested Lumina, her ethereal form shimmering with concern. "Understand how they—" "I have observed them," Nyx cut her off. "For the past century. What I have witnessed defies every law we established when we ascended beyond flesh." The chamber fell silent. Nyx was the oldest among them, the first to achieve godhood when the universe was young. His word carried the weight of cosmic authority. "Show us," commanded Valdris. Reality folded, and suddenly the assembled gods gazed upon a small blue world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. But this was no ordinary planet. It pulsed with energies that shouldn't exist, wrapped in a shell of artificial gravitation that extended far beyond its atmosphere. "Terra," Nyx spoke the name like a curse. "3rd planet of the Sol system. Population 12 billion. Technological classification: should be dead." The images began to flow. Massive ships that moved without propulsion, drawing power from the quantum vacuum itself. Colonies scattered across dimensions that the gods themselves had declared uninhabitable. Humans walking on the surface of neutron stars, their bodies somehow adapted to pressures that would crush matter into exotic states. "How?" whispered Zephyros. For the first time in his existence, he sounded afraid. "They refused to accept limitations," Nyx replied. "When their sun began to die, they built a new one. When their planet couldn't support their population, they created pocket dimensions. When death came for them, they simply said no." Another image materialized. A human research station existing in the space between realities, where the laws of physics were mere suggestions. Scientists worked with materials that shouldn't exist, powered by energy drawn from the spaces between atoms. "Look closer," Nyx commanded. The view zoomed in on one of the humans, a woman with graying hair and tired eyes standing before a console that bent space around itself. Her nameplate read Dr. Sarah Chen, Director of Impossible Studies. "She doesn't even possess our gifts," Nyx continued. "No cosmic awareness, no transcendence of physical form. Yet she commands forces that we use to reshape galaxies, and she's not special among them. There are billions like her." Valdris's form flickered with what could only be described as fear. "They're still mortal. They can still die, can they?" Nyx's question hung in the air like a threat. "Watch." The scene shifted to show a massive space battle. Human ships, sleek and impossible, faced off against what appeared to be living concepts. Abstract mathematical entities that the gods had once used as weapons against rebellious star systems. The humans should have been obliterated instantly. Instead, they adapted. Their ships began to phase in and out of existence, becoming temporarily abstract themselves. Human fighters dodged attacks by stepping sideways through dimensions. When their weapons proved ineffective, they rewrote the local laws of physics to make them work. That battle occurred in Realm 7, Nyx explained. The humans were defending a research outpost from the Equation Lords. They had no business surviving, let alone winning. Yet they did both. But how? Lumina's voice carried a tremor that made nearby stars flicker. "They've weaponized hope," Nyx said simply. "When faced with impossible odds, they don't calculate probability. They imagine victory and then make it real through sheer determination. They've turned stubbornness into a fundamental force. The assembled gods began to understand. Humanity hadn't transcended mortality through power or wisdom. They had simply refused to accept that mortality meant limits. They didn't break the laws of physics. They argued with them until reality got tired of the conversation. "What do they want?" asked Valdris, though part of her already knew the answer. "Everything," Nyx replied. "They want to understand, to explore, to push boundaries that don't want to be pushed. They want to turn the universe into a place where impossible things happen regularly, and they're succeeding." Elder Kairos, who had remained silent, finally spoke. His voice carried the weight of time itself. "They're not trying to become gods. They're trying to make gods unnecessary." The truth of it hit the chamber like a collapsing dimension. Humanity wasn't ascending to their level. They were creating a new level entirely, one where divine power was just another tool to be studied, understood, and ultimately surpassed. "The 10th barrier will not hold them," Nyx concluded. "And when they breach it, they will find us. They will ask their questions, demand their answers, and refuse to accept because we are gods as a response." For the first time in eons beyond counting, the Eternal Council knew fear. Not fear of death, they had transcended such petty concerns, but fear of something far more terrifying, the possibility that their godhood might not be special after all. In the depths of space, Dr. Sarah Chen looked up from her console and smiled. The readings were promising. Barrier 10 was proving more difficult than the others, but humanity had never let difficulty stop them before. She made a note in her journal. Day 1247 of Barrier 10 research. Initial probes unsuccessful, but discovered what appears to be artificial intelligence signatures on the other side. Possibly a welcoming committee. We'll attempt communication protocols tomorrow. The gods had forgotten fear, but humanity was about to give them a very thorough refresher course.